The workplace over the last 75 years has seen a lot of changes. Plop someone who worked in 1950 in the workplace of 2025, and they would not recognize anything except the middle manager. The role of the manager has barely changed. That role is now under greater threat than ever before. What is the future, if any, of the middle manager? Let's explore. I'm a frontline management coach and trainer. I've been managing and coaching managers for over 20 years. I've seen it all and know what works and what doesn't. I'm also passionate about the fact that management is broken. Well, the entire workplace is broken, but I know that managers can make a huge difference without having to fix everything else. Let's start with a woefully inadequate history of the manager that sets the table for how we got to our current situation. First, managers were tasked with two things: keeping things running and teaching frontline workers how to do things. This worked great for the assembly line and factory work, and the manager role in almost all organizations was designed to fulfill these two purposes. The role of manager also served as a career path for those line workers. In theory, it was a way to help quality workers advance in their career. It wasn't meant as a way to eventually break into the ranks of the executives, but it could in some cases. This worked because the workplace was less complex. You could expect a manager to be well versed in all the various aspects of the front line. Today, it's difficult, if not impossible, for a manager to be the expert in the tasks of their employees. Just manage an HR group where you lead diverse and complex topics like employee relations, employment law, recruiting, compensation, and benefits. Used to be that the manager was a position of respect, both from the workers and from the executives. After all, they had shown that they had the skills needed to be rewarded. It was a proper form of meritocracy, even if the factory workers would grumble about the manager and the business school executives didn't think managers had the education to be much more. As the business world changed and the manager role stagnated, respect shifted to open disrespect. Managers would still get paid more and have some positional power over the employees, but the way the manager was viewed changed. The 80s and 90s image of the manager was the pointy haired boss from Dilbert. Then came the smarmy Bill Lumbergh manager in Office Space. Most recently, we see Michael Scott in The Office. The manager went from meritocracy to buffoonery. This increasing disrespect was soon joined by the new enemy of the manager, the consultant. Consultants were paid handsomely to make changes, in theory for the better. They were analytical and could think big picture, but they also weren't there for a long time, which means they had to make an impact fast. The consultant had two ways to be successful: help the company raise revenue or help the company cut costs. Cutting costs is a lot easier to do and to sell. Cutting costs is usually the easiest for the biggest expenses, and for businesses, that's almost always people. Cutting people is also an easy argument to make. Almost every executive thinks employees can work harder. I'm not sure why, but they're convinced that every employee could do more if they just wanted to or were forced to. The consultant then says, hey, you can save a lot of money by getting rid of 20 people and making the ones who are still there work harder. The executive says, great idea. What 20 people do we get rid of? Those smart consultants start to look at output. Who is producing what and how fast? Easy to see that the manager doesn't produce anything. They can get rid of some managers and not hurt production because they weren't producing anything anyways. At this point, the consultant leaves cashing a big check, and the executives pat themselves on the back for a job well done and for paying attention to shareholder value. A little bit of a side note here. As is always the case, some people took this to the extreme. They thought, hey, if we can survive with fewer managers, I bet we can even do better with no managers. Still have managers, so clearly these experiments didn't work out. And the reason it didn't work was not that things didn't get done, but that no one was there to make a decision. Moral of the story: managers are bad until they aren't. There's a bit of a statistical wrinkle at this point. Considering what we learned, we would expect the number of managers in the workforce would decrease. Yet, data shows us that in 1983, 9.2% of the workforce was managers. 2022, that number was up to 13%. How is that possible? Simple answer. The economy boomed, interest rates were effectively zero, and companies were sprouting up all over the place with massive growth. The Silicon Valley startup culture took over the world. Not really, but those guys have a huge ego, so I'm humoring them. Fast growth means lots of people and more teams. Suddenly, the team of three that solved all problems while having pizza at midnight had hundreds of employees, no way to organize or track anything. The answer? You promote people to manager. Those new managers realized this was a sign of power. More people reporting to you made you more powerful. That was how we got managers in these startups. But what about the established companies? Although startups needed people, and it looked like they were making gobs of money, so people at established companies started to move to those jobs. Established companies started to panic and figured out ways to keep people from leaving. So, common scenario: an employee says, I'm going to leave and become a manager over at New Tech Company Inc. The employer doesn't want them to leave and says, well, we'll make you a manager, pay you a bit more, and we're established. So you don't have to worry about that startup going bankrupt. The employee stays and is now a manager. Because the economy was good and money was being made, employers didn't care that they were making a mess. Also, it was way too much work to fix. Which brings us to now and what will happen in the future. I imagine you will see orgs act in two different ways. The first will act like the past, believing the managers don't do anything and getting rid of them is good for the organization. The excuse will be that AI can do it. Gartner predicts that through 2026, 20% of orgs will use AI to flatten organizational structure, eliminating more than half of the current middle management positions. Between bloat and AI, this first group of employers will continue to shed managers. The irony, which is sad, is that the very executives that caused the bloat through bad decisions and lazy thinking are the ones who will get rid of the managers and act like it wasn't their fault. This is exactly what you are seeing from Meta, Amazon, Walmart, and others. It is also the exact wrong thing to do. The second way will be to reimagine the position of manager in radical ways that will pay off because the manager role will be designed for the current workplace, not a relic of the past. Managers will no longer be the experts who have the mission to ensure their teams get things done. The new manager will be focused on using AI where appropriate, but supplementing it with the skills they best offer. They will shift from oversight to facilitation through building relationships, providing feedback, coaching, and developing skills. They will become the conduit between the executive and the front line, not a bottleneck between the two, but the ones who play a vital role in shaping the organization's ability to adapt. This is how they become the cornerstone of agility, not an obstacle to it. They will serve as coaches and mentors to translate shifts into action at the ground level. They will become career coaches, helping employees grow and move both inside and outside the organization. The key to this will be training and empowerment. Few managers have a role model for this type of management, and they will need to be trained and supported as they transform. Because they will be so close to the employee, they will also need to be empowered in new ways. What they will find is that the support needs to be more individualized and customized. No more one-size-fits-all training and benefits programs. Managers will almost become agents who find the best use of resources to meet the employee and organizational needs. I can even envision a time when an employee has a manager, maybe with a new title like career coach, who works with that employee on their skill development, provides feedback, rates performance, and shows appreciation. While the employee also has a project manager for the various projects that they are working on, moving on and off projects as needed. The difference between those two organizational decisions around managers will be stark. The latter will lead to engaged workforces and more honest and direct relationships between employee and employer. If the data about engaged workforces holds up, that means those orgs will be more productive and more profitable than the former. Which way will orgs move? History tells us that they will move the first way, continue to do more of the same. It's one of the many ways organizations are lazy. The second way is the way they should move. This would make the workplace better and more profitable for everyone. But it's work. It will require a rethinking that I doubt many orgs want to do and may not even be capable of doing. I think a best case scenario is that a few small organizations try this new method and have some success, and then they will be copied. Poorly if history repeats itself as it is wont to do. Also, some young managers will take elements of this new method and implement it on their own. Others will see their success and start to copy it. In other words, the revolution will be slow and it will be done at the grassroots. Don't expect Meta, Google, Amazon, or Walmart to be the leaders. If you're a manager who is frustrated with your role, fearful for your job, or just want to make a positive difference in people's lives, follow me and join the Great Manager community. Together, we can man this revolution. Also, like, comment, and share this video. The more people who see it, the more chances we have to make a difference. Thanks for watching. Until next time.